Hitting the button.
Hey there, it's Gary Parrish. Welcome back to the CBS Sports Eye on College Basketball Podcast, where we sometimes discuss camel fighting dodo birds. Leaky Black, Matt Norlander is here with YouTube. Smash the like button like you're Brandon Davies. You have consent. If you haven't yet subscribed to the CBS Sports College Basketball YouTube channel, go ahead and do that while you're here. Let's get into it. We'll get back to our summer shoot-around series on Wednesday, but this episode of the Eye on College Basketball Podcast going to focus on news of the week with the biggest headline, obviously, originating from Los Angeles, where Bronny James had to be rushed to the hospital after suffering cardiac arrest during practice on Monday. Bronny was in ICU, but now he's reportedly stable and recovering. At this moment, there are more answers or more questions rather than answers. We do not know why this happened. We do not know if there were any previous signs of a heart condition. We do not know when Bronny James will play again or if he will play again. Again, more questions than answers. But the only thing that really matters, at least from my perspective right now, is that Bronny James is alive. He is stable and he is recovering. So that's the good news connected to a bad story. Norlander, what more can you tell us about Bronny James collapsing during a workout at USC?
Yeah, that's about all we have right now, which, to be honest, in some ways is actually a bit refreshing. I was making my kids dinner earlier this evening, and I had Around the Horn on, and Tony Reali was saying this story is actually it's pretty airtight so far, and it's almost refreshing to see that because of considering it's the health of someone who's pretty well known, and in that part of the country that there hasn't been, more speculation and rumors out there because it's not so hard to envision how that could be the case, and that has not been the case, and it has been fairly airtight around it. I agree with my bud Tony on that, and to this point, USC has not issued a statement of any kind, and I don't know when we're going to get one. I did reach out to USC, and I did reach out to Andy Enfield just because as a reporter, I felt compelled to do so, but there hasn't been anything yet back on that. Now, that doesn't surprise me because a little more than a year ago, Vincent Iwuchukwu also had a cardiac incident at USC in a summer workout that happened, and then I was subsequently given a tip a couple weeks after it had happened, maybe more than a couple weeks. But I had, quietly but patiently worked on the story, and when we eventually revealed that news and contacted Iwuchukwu and people in his circle, USC still did not release a statement when that happened. Eventually it did, but not in the immediacy of that. So I don't know when we will get something out of USC and when we will get next steps. I hope the next update we get is that Bronny James has been cleared to be released from the hospital and he's doing well and continue to respect his privacy at that time. And I hope that comes sooner than later. But, obviously a very, very scary thing. I mean, he's just 18 years old, and of all the people, what happened, period, but the fact that it happened to the player who has more attention, intrigue, curiosity attached to him than any player heading into this season, GP, is just, it's wild to think about. Like that it is Bronny James, who has lived his life certainly under a spotlight for a long time, but specifically in the past 4 years, basically from the time he entered high school to right up till today. I mean, he has been as followed, you could argue scrutinized, certainly watched in many, many ways. Some project him to be a one and done first round NBA pick. I don't know if that was going to be the case and how that impacts it now. We don't know what awaits with his basketball future, GP, but certainly a good sign that he was able to be released from the ICU, because there were reports from both TMZ and the Los Angeles Times, who cited sources that didn't go public, but it basically said, it was a lights and sirens situation, as we would understandably have it be, going from USC, going to the local hospital where he was taken care of. And this is now 2 years in a row that the trainers and people around USC's athletic department have helped save lives, with Iwuchukwu and now here with Bronny James. And I want to reference a tweet from Ryan Karchi, who covers USC for the Los Angeles Times and has for some time. And he tweeted earlier today, USC has an automatic external defibrillator, AED, hanging in the hallway right off the main Galen Center court. It's now saved 2 lives of 2 men's basketball players in just over a year. And I think, among the few takeaways we could have from this, it is yet another example of any kind of athletic facility, and I'm not just speaking to Division I athletics, across the NCAA, high schools, anywhere in the country that can have AED equipment. If we can help our communities afford those, they are actual lifesavers in these incidents. This is not a new thing. There have been cardiac incidents with athletes going back decades. It's more prominent now for a number of reasons. Bronny James is going to be as high profile as we'll see, near to the level of Damar Hamlin. And the only reason why it might not even be on that level is we actually saw it happen in real time with Damar Hamlin, which was a separate incident altogether. That was a freak collision and a freak accident. What Bronny James suffered from is entirely different. And we hope that it's a good outlook, that he can eventually, if he chooses and wants to, get back to playing. We saw it with Iwuchukwu. He was cleared last January, GP. And even with someone like Keontae Johnson, who had a very public cardiac incident, of course, in the Florida State game, he was not cleared by some universities, but was cleared, obviously, by Kansas State. He went on to have a tremendous season, to the point where he was one of the best players in the Big 12. And lo and behold, he got himself drafted into the NBA after the most rigorous of medical background checks you could possibly imagine over the course of multiple years. So there is a pathway potentially for Bronny James. I'm glad he's doing well. This certainly lands as one of the more shocking headlines we've had in college basketball the entire calendar year.
I have to ask this, I'll just ask you, even though I think I know what your answer will be. You mentioned this happened at USC last year as well. So that's 2 heart-related incidents during USC workouts. Is this just a coincidence, or is there some dots to be connected?
I'm not going to connect any dots. This has been something that has been brought up, and I did speak with a couple people around college basketball, GP, earlier on Tuesday, and those people kind of were talking aloud, like, if I was in this position at USC, one, you'd hope that everything possible they could have done to theoretically prevent an incident like this happening with physicals and everything, that they would have done this. And it is truly a freak occurrence that it is 2 players at one institution in a 13-month span. But even beyond that, going further with even more reviews, and USC is a private school, so a lot of this stuff is not going to be shed publicly, frankly, because USC doesn't have to. We'll see how much gets disclosed and when and on what terms. And again, it's Bronny James, it's LeBron James. It's a different deal altogether from even if it was pretty much any other player, but particularly just sort of an everyman, if you will. But I don't necessarily think that, and I won't connect any dots, but yes, it is a freakish occurrence that we have had 2 incoming freshmen. By the way, Iwuchukwu was heading into his freshman season last season, and now Bronny James, obviously, having just gotten to campus. There you have it. But Iwuchukwu, he went through the process. He was cleared, and he played from January on last season, and is slated to be one of the 3 most important players on that team next season.
I'm with you. I don't connect any dots. Like, first off, it would be wildly irresponsible to do so. I understand why people's mind goes there, but to start trying to draw any conclusions that was 2 freshmen in a row at USC that have, collapsed on the court, I just think you're getting into some real delicate territory there. Andy Enfield doesn't have a reputation. Like, this isn't the Junction Boys, Like, I'm just going to assume that this is coincidental, that one has nothing to do with the other, and hope that Bronny is as good as he can possibly be ASAP. Because from my perspective here, I always try to put myself in the shoes of other people. Sometimes I'm not the best at it, but I just can't imagine what it's like to get that phone call yesterday if you're LeBron James. I can't depict that. Phone rings. Hello. Your 18-year-old son is being rushed to the hospital. He just had a cardiac arrest or a cardiac incident, and he was unconscious, and we are getting him to the hospital AS. Like, it makes me sick even thinking about that. It's a reminder that it doesn't matter how successful you are, how wealthy you are, how accomplished you are.
I'm gonna hop in here just in case, GP, your internet got a little bit spotty there, so I'm gonna hop in just in case if it's on my end or not. But to your point specifically, I'm a father of 2 boys, and that's a shuddering thought. but I have a younger brother who was public with this a couple of years ago. Who, I mean, I got a call from my mother, and thankfully, my brother Cody is still here with us. But he suffered a cardiac incident, and actually, like, he was feeling terrible, was brought to the hospital, and literally flatlined at the hospital with doctors around him. And it was because he was in an advantageous position when that happened, that he was able to be saved, and he is doing well, and he has gone through recovery treatments and all this stuff. But I very much remember the time and place and the day when my own mother called me, not knowing the fate of my younger brother's life. And lo and behold, yes, it was a cardiac incident. He was able to be saved. And yeah, it was a very, very scary incident. And that prompted me and everyone in my family, and something that I would advise to anyone listening, to see a cardiologist, because it's just better to know these kind of things. Like, it's very easy to kind of shake this stuff off and delay this kind of stuff. But if you have felt even a tinge of, you know what, I might be overdue for a doctor's appointment for this, that, or the other, I would certainly encourage it, because it can bring a certain element of clarity and peace of mind that I think is very, very, very needed. If you are watching live, GP's internet situation from his hotel room seems to have stalled on him. So I'm now, for the moment, doing a solo deal. I think Nada's going to try and loop GP back in before we actually break. Only other things I have on this story, and I'll fill a little bit here and see what, when, and where GP can hop back into the conversation, is USC is going on a foreign tour in a couple of weeks. Don't know, don't know. Won't speculate if Bronny James will even join them for that. But I wouldn't necessarily bank on it, obviously. So that's next, and then I just hope that he is able to be on the men soon and enjoy the college experience as much as he can, even if it's away from the basketball court for whatever period of time. Because consider, like, the path of LeBron James and him choosing to play in Los Angeles, and then Bronny choosing to play at USC, and how public LeBron's journey has been across his adult life playing in the NBA, and then speaking on wanting to play with his son, and later going back and saying, I have some regrets about naming my firstborn after me, and I might have regrets about maybe, considering how much pressure I might have been putting on him talking about playing in the NBA, but it's something I want, and it's something that he wants. Well, now all that stuff is on hold, and I hope his family is in a good place right now, for sure. And I hope the news is good, but I hope that Bronny James is able to actually go and enjoy the college experience, which LeBron never did, because he never had to. He was going to be the number one pick, and he was. And so there you have it. So I hope that that we do get frequent and positive updates on this end as soon as possible. But at the same time, like, certainly respect the process that is happening here, and we will get updates as the public needs them. Understandably, there's a lot of curiosity with an incident like this. I understand that. We will get them as they are deemed needed, and I think that's about all from my end, GP. I know you cut out a little bit there, but if you have anything else on Bronny, the floor is all yours. Otherwise, I've said what I needed to say.
I cut out more than a little bit. I cut out a lot. I've been in this hotel 10 straight days, and I've had enough of this internet. This is Bloomington. I feel like I'm in Manhattan, but I feel like I'm in Bloomington. Like, I might as well have on my, wear the candy canes. I should have on my candy cane pants.
Candy canes.
Sitting here in Manhattan.
We got an email about that. Yeah, go ahead.
The only thing, I saw that. The only thing I would add, and it's just something I noticed. I wonder if you noticed it. So TMZ, I guess more than TMZ, the reporting is now that the 911 call came in at 9:26 a.m. on Monday, Pacific time. At 5:24 p.m. Pacific time, LeBron James is tweeting about taking Saudi money to play basketball, like goofing around. Clearly, like, what is going on there?
I honestly, I have no idea. I'm going to be the naive optimist in this scenario and hope that whatever the family had undergone and experienced in the preceding number of hours, that was obviously and understandably traumatic, that that the news that he was receiving was so reassuring, the information we don't have right now, that he was able to take a breath and maybe was like, I'm just going to hop on Twitter and blow off some steam and tweet something outrageous, which it was outlandish. If you're unfamiliar, GP just laid it out. But now that we have that information back to back, it certainly is peculiar in retrospect, but I couldn't even begin to try and interpret why that happened.
Yeah, it was just something I noticed. I don't make anything more of it than it's just something I noticed. Your son had a cardiac event in the morning, and you're making jokes on Twitter, later in the afternoon. It's just people deal with things in different ways. I think most of us understand that. In the spirit of like full disclosure, I think people know my father passed last month, and we had his service on a Wednesday. And, on that Saturday, we had bought months ago with some friends, like tickets to Taylor Swift. And it was like, we're supposed to go with our friends. We spent a lot of money on this trip. We could get cancel it, but like, what do you want me to do? Like, I've spent time, processed as much as I can process. We've grieved. Like, do we need to cancel the trip? And so we ended up going. It was weird. It was a weird weekend, but we ended up going. Every weekend's weird, but we ended up going. And, but you know what? I didn't put anything on social media, not one thing. And it was just because it's not because I didn't enjoy the weekend, but I was kind of scared of how people would react or what people might think if they see me, at a concert, 4 days after my dad. And so I just stayed off of social media because I didn't want anybody to have weird reactions to what I was doing. And I guess if I were LeBron James in that situation, I would have probably stayed off. I'd have probably just skipped that joke.
When it happened, no one knew outside of a small group of people had realized what had happened to Bron.
Right. Yeah. I just thought that was interesting. Like, it just made me think of, I chose not to be on social media in that time because I just didn't want to. I didn't know how it would come across. And I guess LeBron James just deals with things differently. And I bet your explanation is as good as any. Hey, everything's fine. Bronny's that was scary. Woo. That was scary, but everything's fine. Yeah. He's already out of ICU. We're going to be okay. Now we can all be happy. I'm just going to blow off some steam, make some jokes, whatever. So I'm sure it was nothing or something like that. It's something I know. When I first started looking at the timeline of things, I was like, hold up. This happened at 9:26 a.m. And then he's tweeting that at 5:24 p.m. It just it caught my attention, but I bet your explanation is pretty close to right, if not exactly right.
All right, let's convert to some on-court news, because we've got some pretty good stuff, some pretty good scheduling developments this week, haven't we, Gary?
We have, and again, forgive me for this internet situation. I don't know how this is going right now, but it feels
You're
very
good. You're good. I was going to
let's start with the Maui Invitational. The bracket has been released for the 2023 Maui Invitational, which is always a terrific event. We've got the teams in it that are ranked first, second, and sixth in the top 25 and 1. We'll run you through the bracket next, but first, a word from our partners.
You up for playing outside the lines?
What are her directives then?
Neutralize the target.
You do it quiet, and you do it clean.
If your cover is blown, you have to save yourself.
Did you hit the target?
I'm doing everything different this time. She's your field agent. Do what you think's best.
All right, I heard absolutely none of that, so I'm just going to assume that some audio played and everything's fine. And now we'll get to the Maui Invitational. Deadleg, the bracket is as follows. And the rankings are according to the top 25 and 1. At number 14, Tennessee against Syracuse. Number 2, Purdue against number 19, Gonzaga. Number 1, Kansas versus Chaminade. And number 6, Marquette versus UCLA. I think you would agree with me. Purdue, Gonzaga, the most interesting first-round matchup.
It is, and those are in. And by the way, your timing is perfect. I don't know if you're hearing me on a 5-second delay, but I want to let you know you came out of the break perfectly. And I'm sorry you didn't hear audio, but everything is still going okay. If for whatever reason you drop, I'll get this plane landed in some way. But yes, that order that GP just read off is the order in which the games will be played. So you got Vols, Q's, Purdue, Gonzaga, Kansas, Chaminade, UCLA, Marquette. I'm going to finish with this game that you just started. Let's just go Kansas Chaminade. I love the fact that Chaminade's still in every other year. I get why they've been phased out in even number years where it's 8 Division I programs. Personally, call me a sentimentalist, but I like when they're involved, even if they're going to get absolutely destroyed in this tournament. I don't care. Give me Chaminade. They're going to get Kansas, who very well could be the best team in this field. On the bottom half of that, you've got UCLA against Marquette, and that's just, I mean, you've got a UCLA team that's probably not quite as strong as it was last year. You can wait on those thoughts for our summer shoot around on the Bruins, which is coming later this summer. And then a Marquette team that was so good. We have an episode on them coming. That's the other thing. This is like a summer shoot around special, though. I guess apologies to Syracuse. They're not involved with that. But that's a wonderful bottom half. Top half, Tennessee Qs. Syracuse now in a new era. No more Jim Boeheim. They've got Red Autry, but they've got a solid enough roster. I think good enough to win that game potentially. And then Purdue Gonzaga is the best. There's usually a quarterfinal matchup because of the nature of what Maui is. There usually is at least one game on that Monday that is quite tasty. And a succulent head-to-head right there with Purdue and Gonzaga. Those teams met last season, you may recall, in the PK 85. I was there. That was really the arrival of Purdue as a national title contender, and Zach Edey, getting 50 paces out ahead of everyone else with the National Player of the Year race, which he wound up holding on to. So we already knew the field, but we only just learned the matchups here on Tuesday, and I think it's awesome. This is the 40th iteration of the Maui Invitational, by the way, and I might have to lob a travel request. I have never covered it. I requested to cover it 5 years ago, but then Parrish covered it instead. I think I'm due. I would love to cover this one because it is as good of a feel as they've had in like 5 to 7 years. It's not on GP. They were just like, you know what? We'll send GP. All right, cool. Good times. Hopefully I can go cover this one. I would love to do it because the field is awesome. And I could see Purdue, Gonzaga, Kansas, UCLA, Marquette. I could see any of those teams winning this whole thing. And we could also have multiple Final Four teams in this field.
I don't remember the exact email I got, but it was something along the lines of, would you be willing to go to Maui? I was like, yeah, I would be willing to go to Maui. I will tell you, it takes you a while to get there, but once you get there, whoo, boy, it's nice. It's really nice. I living in the South, sometimes people are like, why would you ever need to go to Hawaii when Destin's just down the road? And it's like, I've heard it. Only people who have never been to Maui. Okay. Only people who have only been to Destin and never been to Maui. It's just different. They're just different places. I can have
By the way,
fun
Nada has informed us on the live chat that UCLA is not part of shoot around. I think I said they were. My bad. Mick Cronin, please forgive me.
Yeah, we'll have to get to UCLA some other time. Shouts to Amari Bailey's mother. Maui's wonderful. I hope you get to go because it's I'm glad, I don't know if I'll ever go again, but I'm glad I went then. I'm glad I can say I've been to Maui because just walking in that little gym is awesome. And then, it's Maui. It's beautiful. You'll have a great time.
Well, I got to get, it's not the cheapest thing. I got
it is not. It is also,
I'm not banking on approval, although I would love to do it. And if that means that's my one trip for like the first 3 months of the season, I would take that as a trade-off because this is just a loaded field. Over under right now, prediction July 25th. Over under 1.5 Final Four teams in the 2023 Maui field.
1.
All right, you're gonna go under?
Under, yeah.
I'm gonna go. I'll agree with you begrudgingly, but I'll go under. Over under 0.5 national champions in the Maui tournament field. Over under 0.5 national champions.
Okay, this is actually interesting. Would you take the rest of the country or the Maui field?
I almost tweeted this today. Look,
because if the Maui by the Maui field, and by the top 25 and 1, you get 1, 2, and 6. You get 3 of the top 6 and the top 2. I might take the Maui field. I know that's not smart. I know you shouldn't. But I might.
And in that, you're not even including Gonzaga and UCLA, just so people are clear when GP's referencing that. That's still good.
Yeah, you get the 3 top 6 teams plus Gonzaga, Tennessee, and UCLA. and the brand formerly known as Syracuse.
I'm telling you right now, I'm taking the Maui Field. You give me Maui versus the Field, I'm taking Maui. I'm taking Maui.
I think if we could get Bart Torvik on here or Ken Pomeroy on here or some other smart person, they would tell you that that's not. They would tell you you're being dumb, but like it's okay. We can be dumb. We've never claimed to be geniuses, have we? Yeah.
No,
I claim to be a doctor.
Well, I feel like you have a couple of times, but that's beside the point. I'm taking you give me this. I'm taking Maui versus the Field, and I wouldn't every year, but with this one, yeah, I think absolutely, particularly with Gonzaga's retools. I mean, Gonzaga just plucked a commit from Kansas too. That also happened in the past couple of days. So there's no shortage of a lot of tasty teams and potential Final Four and national champions there.
And if the bracket goes to form, stays true to form, we could get number 1 Kansas versus number 2 Purdue in the title game, a matchup between former Big Ten centers Hunter Dickinson and I guess current Big Ten center Zach Edey.
Yeah, that is true. As I'm looking through this on that note, Bona from UCLA is another good center. Marquette's more guard and wing dependent this season, I suppose. I think that
Ike.
Ike out of Gonzaga. Yeah, we'll see if he can make the jump. But it's gotten to the point where because of PK85 last year and occasionally Atlantis wins out, Maui doesn't always have the best MTE. This upcoming season, it absolutely does. And I think these matchups, this was the way to go. You were going to get at least one dynamite quarterfinal. Purdue Gonzaga is that. And as we get closer, I'm sure we'll predict this out, but I'm not comfortable doing that, and I won't do it. I will not predict this whole bracket on July 25th. Not going to happen.
I will do it. I'll do it in a matter of seconds. You ready?
Yeah.
We're going to get Tennessee against Purdue in one semifinal, Kansas against Marquette in the other, Kansas against Purdue in the title game, and then Kansas beats Purdue to win the Maui Invitational before Kansas goes on to win the national championship.
That's not bad. I did want to give some shout to Paint Touches because they shared this on Twitter earlier today. In the last 20 editions of the Maui Invitational, there have been 4 national champions and 12 Final Four teams the last 20 times they've played this tournament. And the record for most NCAA tournament teams in one Maui field is 6. Trivia time. What year did it happen? I'd have to look up.
What year?
It happened
I'm going to say 2019.
No, not 2019. Let's give you 3 guesses. Not 2019.
Okay. 2012.
Nope. A little further back.
Oh, yeah. It's 2007.
2007? 2007.
Yeah, 2007.
You were 1 year off. It is 2006. That tournament shares these 3 teams in common with this year's tournament. The 2006 tournament had UCLA, Chaminade, and Purdue. That year's tournament had UCLA, Memphis, Oklahoma, Kentucky, and then Georgia Tech. So I guess the teams that didn't go that year in 06 and 07. So 07 tournament. So Chaminade didn't go and DePaul didn't go. But UCLA, Kentucky, Memphis, Oklahoma, Purdue, Georgia Tech all went. I guess that's how that breaks down. But yeah, good little nuggets from Paint Touches there.
The reason I remember that, a used car salesman from Memphis was coaching the Los Angeles-based pump and run team run by the Pump Brothers. And I remember wondering, what on earth is the connection between Mark Goodfellow, used car salesman from Memphis, and the pump and run program? And it turns out that they met in Maui. The Pumps were out in Maui with UCLA, and Goodfellow was out in Maui with Memphis. They had such a good time, they just decided to let him coach their basketball team going forward. So here was a used car salesman from Memphis coaching Drew Holiday and the twins who went to North Carolina or whatever, the Ware twins.
Yeah.
It was the Ware twins. Yeah, and what was my buddy's name who went to UCLA and just went wild and then changed his name? Reeves Nelson.
Yeah. But what do you change it to?
Yeah, they were all. I can't remember, but it was crazy.
Yeah, we've talked about it on the pod before. I can't remember what it was. The funniest part about this, GP, is that you told me this story. It was like you, me, and some shared company. I think it was in Vegas at some sort of recruiting deal, 7-8 years ago. And so you're telling the story, and you're telling the story. Let's say you're telling the story in 2015 or 2016. Well, you're hearkening back to being in a gym. Call it 2008 or whenever it was, 2006, 2008, 2009, and you're in a gym. I think you know where I'm going with this. And you're sitting down and you're sitting next to the one and only Roy Williams, and you're talking about the team or whatever, and then you start telling him a little bit about this story, and then Roy Williams turns to you, goes, "You mean Coach Goody?" And you're like, "Coach Goody?
Exactly.
What? Coach Goody?
Like,
That dude was selling cars 2 years ago."
It is so funny. Like, it's the funniest thing in the world. Like, seriously, go on YouTube and do It's All Good Auto Sales in Memphis. It's All Good Auto Sales in Memphis by Mark Goodfella. This is the guy who I look out on the court. I've known him for years. He sits courtside at Grizzlies games. He's got all these wild television commercials in Memphis. He's like a big deal in Memphis. He's my friend. And he's the pump and run team based out of Los Angeles. I can't overstate how ridiculous this is. All right. So I'm sitting with Roy Williams and I'm just trying to make people understand, like, do you guys even understand what is going on here? Like, that's not some obscure AAU coach you've never met. That is a used car salesman from Memphis who the Pumps just like hung out with in Hawaii, and now he's coaching their team because they think he's funny. And so I'm trying to tell this to Roy Williams. I'm like, so you see the guy in the shorts right there? And Roy Williams, I swear to God, looks right at me and goes, "You mean Coach Goody?" I was like, "Coach Goody? Coach Goody?" Like, Roy Williams is so good. It's so good that a used car salesman, and it's the perfect Memphis story. A used car salesman from Memphis is coaching future NBA players in Las Vegas, while Hall of Fame coach Roy Williams has created a relationship with him and now refers to him as Coach Goody. I mean, the whole thing is so absurd and hilarious.
I love it. And speaking of Roy Williams, might he be in the no might about it? As long as he's on this terra firma, he's going to be there. We got some more scheduling goodness earlier this week. Tell the people what they need to know.
Kansas and North Carolina have agreed to a home and home series, with the games being played on campus at Allen Fieldhouse and at the Dean Smith Center in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. So it's another example of something we've talked about, these big time programs getting together and saying, we don't have to go to New York or South Dakota or Las Vegas to play. Let's just play on each other's campuses.
Without a doubt. By the way, this internet lag is making for a fun podcast as far as I'm concerned. No, so this is wonderful, wonderful news. Now, the stunner of this is that these schools have only played each other 12 times. 2 blue bloods, and what is it? The past four times, or they've met in the final four the 12. Yeah, they've met in the final four of the 12 times they've played. Carolina has played in Lawrence once. That was 1960. Dean Smith was in his 3rd year as an assistant coach, and then Kansas has never played in Chapel Hill, period. So this is wonderful to see. Just speak to the obvious, whatever. We're going to applaud, champion this kind of stuff. As many blue blood, but even shy of that, top 25 level programs willingly opting in, electing to play home and homes in the month of November, or if you're going to make it happen in December, all the more. This creates intrigue, juice, casual fan, people that like college basketball, but they might be like, all right, I'll check out a little Maui here and there. But, you know, if it's Carolina playing a neutral against even, you know, no offense to say you hate Marquette, so I'll just say Marquette, like Carolina versus Marquette on a neutral somewhere, like that might bring them in. Carolina against Kansas in Allen Fieldhouse at the Dean Dome, that has more widespread appeal and power and drawing power to it. So congrats to both these coaches for getting it done. Hubert Davis, Bill Self. Bill Self is on, he's on a mission here. He did the Indiana home and home, which is going to continue this year. I'm told there's some flirtation between Kansas and Duke, trying to make that to be a home and home at some point. He just doesn't. He's not going to stop. We've obviously seen Kansas and Kentucky do it. So good on Hubert Davis for also opting in on this. This is the exact kind of thing that good old Roy, and I'm sure Coach Goody would have endorsed entirely, to get these 2 blue bloods, 2 of the best programs to play each other on the home floor. And by the way, both these games are going to be I think both are the second game of their respective season. So you'll get the fodder to open up the bye game, but then you don't have to wait but 2 or 3 days, and then we'll get the goodies here.
Okay, I barely heard anything you said, but I would assume you said all the right stuff, and that I couldn't have possibly added anything of interest. and we're going to call it a podcast.
All right. It's amazing to me that this has happened, but I'm going to give you thumbs up right now. You are correct about that. I touched on, I think, everything we need to know. If you want to know any more, I did a newser on this at cbssports.com or on your CBS Sports app. Carolina versus Kansas. I'm tossing it. I'm going to make the tossing motion. I'm tossing it back to you. Back to you, GP. Finish it up.
Shouts to Devin Downey. Shouts to Chester, South Carolina. Shouts to Huck. Shouts to Larnell. Shouts to Coach Goody and Coach Roy. Thank you, guys. Really, thank you, guys. If you sat through this nonsense, I can't. Seriously, like the Subway Series is about to start. You could million other things you could be doing. Season 2 of the Bears on Hulu, for crying out loud. What are you doing sitting here dealing with my internet?
Oh, there it goes. Should I commandeer the shouts right now?
Probably.
I don't even do the shouts. Can I do it here's a genuine question. Can I do it from, are you there, GP?
Please finish this. I can't deal with this anymore. I'm about to, this is why I just, I'm glad I don't have anything here to hurt myself with right now.
Okay.
I'm glad there's nothing within arm's reach that I could hurt myself with because I've had enough.
All right. Shouts to Devin Downey. Shouts to Chester, South Carolina. Shouts to Larnell. He's a legend. Thank you for subscribing to the Ion. See, some people know this by heart. I just don't know it by heart. Thank you for subscribing to the Ion College Basketball Podcast. If you are not already, please do so. Spotify, Apple, every single conceivable podcast outlet. Please do subscribe. Rate us. If you are not already subscribed to the YouTube channel, please do that, because if you do that and you ding the bell, you get the alert when we go live. So if you want to watch us on a Tuesday when Parrish has terrible internet and now is giving us the above view of his head, you can get that as well. We will have more Summer Shoot-Around episodes coming this week. We will have Creighton and we will have Duke. GP said at the start of this episode we would have Creighton on Wednesday. I believe that has changed even more so because of his internet situation. We will have our Creighton episode on Thursday morning for you, and Duke will be coming Friday. We'll talk to you soon. Until then, take care.